Welcome to Cloud and Clear, the podcast by SADA for innovative business leaders and technology enthusiasts, where we explore how Google Cloud is transforming the industry and what that means to you. Now here's your host, Tony Safoian.
All right, I'm so excited today to have our first ever partner sales managers on Cloud and Clear. So Brad and Lisa, welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks, excited to be here.
And Brad, thanks for doing this like last second.
Last second, but you always got to be camera ready.
I love it.
Yeah.
You stay camera ready.
You have to in this business, I think.
So for the audience, as you know, this is really for the ecosystem. It's for the larger cloud ecosystem, for Google Cloud, customers, partners, etc., and for other Googlers. And so being the first partner sales managers I've ever had, do you want to please introduce yourselves and your roles and kind of describe also maybe where you came from prior to your current role?
Sure. Yeah. I'll
Go ahead.
head us off. So Brad Fisher. I'm a PSM in South Central Enterprise within GCP. So I help the reps align properly with partners to make sure that they're getting the most with regard to their customer interactions and how they're able to help customers optimize. Prior to this, I was a salesperson in the ISR org for Google for a year and a half. Prior to that, I was a salesperson at Rackspace for 4 years.
Awesome.
And an AWS specialist for 2 of those. So I've seen a few of the clouds.
That's a pretty good background.
Not bad.
Yeah, so actually, Lisa Gluckstern, partner sales manager for Central Corporate, so 15 states, 10 in South Central, 5 in North Central. Brad and I actually started together, and we've had a very similar path. So I was also an ISR covering North Central, and before that, I was a sales rep and a partner manager at Citrix for 4 years. So very interesting to see new model, but very similar role. And in addition to, finding the correct partners for the right workloads, we also work closely with partners like SADA to drive new pipeline to the sellers that we're aligned to. So working closely with like marketing and doing those partner first initiatives.
So partner sales, I think when the role was first introduced at Google Cloud, it was to me one of the first key indications that the whole model was working towards and moving towards a partner-centric one. And so, and I think the role is evolving, right? And it's evolving in various ways that are measured, that are, I think, directional. And so, Lisa, how would you describe how your interaction with the sales organization is in the field regarding your role?
Yeah, so and you're spot on. It has changed so much in the last year and a half from when I was first brought on to now. So, we've come a long way. It went from, introducing how to work with partners, how partners drive value, how to see them as an extension of our sales team, to getting really specific into, hyper-specific workloads, specializations that partners have, working with partners that resell and help grow and land and expand opportunities to make them, consume quicker. So there's so many different aspects of working in the field with different partners and different workloads and different stages of the sales cycle. So it's always changing and expanding, and building those relationships has been key for sure.
Yeah, and I think Corp is super exciting, kind of a more high velocity segment of the business. Yep. Brad, you have the unique privilege and opportunity and challenge of working, I think, in enterprise as a PSM, right? Mm-hmm. I think that game is different. So how would you describe how it is? And you're covering South Central, so not as many states,
right? But
still a massive territory.
Yeah, it's a big territory. I'd say it's probably evolved in much the same way. I mean, I think that initially the kind of strategy was around finding partners who could implement these solutions, right? You're selling, but it's not always guaranteed that the customer, frankly, it's more often than not guaranteed that the customer is able to get their environment or footprint off the ground.
Right.
But now it's evolved into a more strategic, I think, position where you're kind of going in with these customers, not sort of after the fact, after you found an opportunity to roll out, but actually on the sort of pre-sale side to attack a market. Yeah. So we're working with partners, I think, more strategically now to create IP around solutions that we can leverage to break into accounts, to further the value for those customers, to bring them something holistic that'll help them optimize rather than sort of reactively bringing someone on to forward momentum.
Yeah.
And I think for enterprises, the industry strategy is now taking shape.
Yeah.
It's what you keep seeing from TK and from Rob and from now Hamadou's kind of leading a very specific industry specific, strategy, which I think is very important because customers in the enterprise just want to be spoken to in sort of their language, right?
Yeah, and I think that also comes down to partners like SADA really leaning in to get specialists who understand the needs of these specific verticals so that they can speak their language, like you said, and help them come to the conclusion that cloud is the right option, right?
Yeah.
Rather than sort of pigeonholing yourself into one or two smaller workloads to try and get a foothold and say, look, you like our cloud, you should probably try out more things now. It's a more holistic conversation to try and drive a bigger strategy that would land bigger deals. So like the SAP movement or a full data center transformation, having the assets around that to really bring a compelling argument or value rather to the customer in order to set up bigger, more comprehensive and actually more impactful solutions.
And Lisa, what we see in Corp is that generally speaking, customers are more ready to evaluate, to test, to try, to make a first workload happen.
Less red tape, maybe, for sure.
Less red tape, right? Like less of it's not maybe a big board level decision, or maybe there's less leaders to convince.
Right.
So how have you seen that, I think, kind of shift, especially under the leadership of TK? Because, I think he's brought a lot to the table with Rob. They are, focusing a lot on the enterprise logos, but even in our business, I think the bread and butter, where the most velocity is in Corp. And I think also as a partner, it's also where we can add kind of the comprehensive value in a horizontal fashion.
Yeah, absolutely. So you use the word focus, which has definitely been a big impact in the organization since I'm coming on board. So focusing on very cloud native, cloud ready types of customers in the Corp business, more digital natives born in the cloud. So instead of treating Corp customers like enterprise customers, we're looking to focus on the types of customers that are cloud ready and that make that decision quicker because we have such a higher velocity of customers. So, that's where really our channel partners are an extension and accelerate those sales cycles. So, we've seen that a lot in the West, and sometimes Central is the last of the game, but we're catching up quickly. So we're definitely seeing that.
I mean, it is interesting. I had lunch with Oliver the other day, Oliver Parker, and it is interesting, like their kind of the world that they live in, right? Because there's so much tech native, there's so much startup activity, and in our startup customers, it's like if they're created in the last 2 to 3 years, they've almost chosen Google Cloud as a default.
That's awesome.
Which is great, right? And they have all these technical reasons because those are engineering-led decisions. There's not a lot of politics involved. There's no legacy or there's no technical debt that they're trying to get out from under. But the enterprise is not like that.
No, I mean, it's a different motion when you're talking.
And I've seen both. Corp. He was a corporate PSM first, so.
I was, and I'd say that there's actually a lot of similarities, right? Like the difference between some of the larger customers in Corp that I was working with and some of the standard customers in enterprise that I'm working with is pretty slim, actually. You have a lot of people who are rooted in technologies that have gotten them here, that maybe aren't suited for the cloud or are a technical risk in some capacity, and definitely an investment if you're looking to move to the cloud. And so a lot of what we're leveraging now, or that I'm seeing the reps move towards, is education. So workshops that you can run where you go on site and you literally take their whole team and try and work with them to uncover areas that they're maybe struggling in or that could be improved, that the cloud can lead to those improvements and help them sort of demystify the enigma that is the cloud. And I think that that's done a really good job of helping usher in some early discussions and some broader discussions that are leading to good wins, good conversations, and good value for the customers, frankly.
And that's definitely a difference in central versus like a west region is that education and training, because cloud is still relatively very new. So for more enterprise focused customers, they've had people that have been there for 20 plus years. We have to remember that this is very new to them, whereas the core focus is a little bit more, the startup, wanting to partner with us, be part of our SaaS program. I mean, I'm seeing that multiple times a day, and it's really exciting.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing the multi-cloud thing more in enterprise than I did in corporate. I feel like in corporate, and I think that does make sense, right? The number of different organizations that you see in the enterprise where they're completely disparate, completely siloed, and they've just chosen their preferred vendor. Right? It could be that we're working with them right now, and through a myriad of trying to bring people together, you find out, hey, they're using in this organization, this cloud, and that organization, that cloud. And it's not always about necessarily, It's not always about necessarily aggregating everything together on one cloud, but seeing how you can complement some of the work that's being done in different areas and leverage the tools that we offer to do that.
No, I think that's why we're super excited about Google's Anthos strategy.
Yeah.
That is sort of something that only Google would do, I think, being in the position that they are, but also could do, like from a technology standpoint, because that concept of a operating system for all the clouds and on-premise is such a technical feat.
It is. I mean, the networking aspect of it with service mesh is also pretty incredible, and a single pane of glass to be able to help customers aggregate, merge their operations together and be able to have the best of all worlds, I think is very in line with Google's ethos.
It is, and I know you guys have some prepackaged solutions around that, which is very corp friendly. So that's something that is very helpful to us is when our partners look at our solutions and then design things around our go-to-market plan. So knowing that Court's looking for those repeatable motions that we can roll out across a lot of different customers in a relatively short amount of time has been really huge.
Yeah, I think customers today want to take bite-sized chunks of risk and bite-sized chunks of a technical challenge to see if they can do it. And I think that's the beauty of this economic model is that you can, pay for what you use, have a $50,000, project that drives value. In the old world of enterprise software, it's very, very hard to do that.
Yeah.
I think it's not all or nothing, that's for sure.
And it's helpful to have partners who are on the bleeding edge of technology that we roll out because, as Google kind of and the other public clouds exist, they're not in the business of deploying things on behalf of customers, right? And that leads to, I think, some sellers not having direct access to how these things work. And so when a partner can, roll out the plan, how this actually works, how it's going to affect change, and really show them a tangible product, I think it just is a huge added benefit.
So one of the things that we're always trying to adjust to is not only how the different broad geographies function, because you're right, like West is different than South Central. Actually, Southwest is different than NorCal. Canada's totally different.
All the metros are very different.
All the metros are very different with regards to not only sort of customer awareness and maturity and how they like to be sold to and how they like to be engaged, but the different sellers at Google have different styles. And that's something we're always trying to adjust very specifically to, because like we can add value at different parts of the value chain as a partner. So we're always trying to figure out, both from your standpoint and like Jim's standpoint here, like, hey Jim, like where do you want us to play, right? And again, I think being a PSM often is one of the most challenging roles, because you're trying to actually help influence rep behavior on the field. And reps, especially successful ones that have been, have many years of success, don't like being told what to do. So tough question. How do you get to influence rep behavior?
I feel like there's a bit of method to it that isn't necessarily directly influencing, but melding your kind of approach to their approach, right? I think that being able to understand the way that they want to do things and position what you can do for them in the same vein as the things that they want to do does tend to actually get a fairly good response. I mean, there's always going to be people who, it's just sort of
I got this. I don't need a partner.
running into
I'll
a
let you
wall
know.
over and over again. Yeah, but I think that over time, if you continue to position different solutions that actually align with the way that they try and do things, all of a sudden you get sort of an aha moment where they're like, oh, actually, while you're on the phone with them, like, I don't need anything. What if we were to do this? That's a good idea, actually. Will you shoot off that email? I sure will. And you've got that one little win, and I feel like that actually has to be how it goes, because there's no way to have it unified.
Well, yeah, like you said, bite-sized chunks for our customers, same for our sellers.
Totally.
So
It's
rolling
really
this out
selling.
in stages, like it doesn't happen overnight. And like you were saying, every market's different. So something that Brad and I have been good at is identifying different personalities, and some partners, the reps that they just mesh with. So having those trusted relationships is huge, and that is a little bit on the rep to do. But one way we can help is by showing with customer references and wins in other regions and things that have been proven to be successful. I think that instills confidence. And then having a plan, a partner plan, and executing on it. So something that makes sense for their business. Hey, we want to focus on VM migration, and we'll find the partners that can make that happen, that have made it happen, have the customer resources, they have the delivery team, they have the tooling that we want. So putting a partner plan in place that makes sense for their region, their focus, and their personality. It's not easy, but it definitely happens. And once I think that they have a good experience, they're like, okay, this really is an extension of my sales team.
And we love being measured, actually.
Okay.
And being held accountable for like different initiatives, metrics, just part of being a premier partner. There's a bunch of things we have to do kind of on a global basis, but being able to actually deliver those numbers to a local market, and to the leadership. We're deploying our own new ERP system.
Nice.
That's cool.
Goes live on Monday.
That's exciting. Congrats.
Thank you. Yeah, oh my God, it's so many years in the making, but to be able to drill down and just show you like the data that you care about in enterprise, South Central and Lisa, like all Central Corp, I can very, very soon be able to kind of show those
Do by
metrics.
pod cluster?
Yeah, by pod
By
cluster.
rep level?
Totally.
Okay,
Yes, that's
that'd
the
be great.
idea.
That's awesome.
We actually have like the Google rep as a required field in the opportunity. So it's
That's
like
smart.
as we're closing deals, we'll have to
Yeah, that's
identify like
awesome.
who the rep was.
Yeah.
So we have
I love
big,
it.
big ambitions.
Very aligned.
We want to create like not only the best customer experience and the best people experience for our recruiting and retention, but the best partner experience.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So like you read all this stuff all the time, and I think there's more excitement around the ecosystem than ever. And like the whole concern that we had like 10 years ago when we're going so hot and heavy in our investment with Google Cloud was, how big is Google Cloud going to get? Are they serious or maybe a little late to the game versus AWS and others? But when you get articles in the press like the Deutsche Bank analysis that said Google Cloud is a $225 billion market cap business, is 27% of Google's value, and TK coming on board and Rob coming on board and Kristen Klippas coming on board, like these people are not here to just sort of mess around, right? They're here to win and make a big impact. And what have you seen just momentum-wise? And maybe start with enterprise and go to corp in your segments. Like, what do these leaders need? Especially, I think Kristen, who will own the North America P&L, and the partner strategy will roll under sales,
Right.
Like with Janet Kennedy. I think that's a very, very smart structure.
Yeah.
And that's very new. But what are you feeling?
I think that is, I mean, the real benefit to it is alignment, right? Like when you're siloed, it's really difficult to make sure that everyone's going in with the same strategy. And I think what one of my favorite things about them being here is not only having a unified strategy that everybody can get behind and push, because once that happens, the resources start coming on board, right?
Yeah.
If everyone's kind of running a different play, then it's hard to make a case for additional resources or to get, I don't know, programs off the ground if we need different incentives to make things more palatable for customers.
Yeah, like the sales reps are like our customers. So we need to be completely aligned on what they need.
Exactly. And so when we're in that position, we find that more alignment comes from what the partners are doing to what the sellers need, and the partner team's doing to what the sellers need, and then the sellers get the resources they need, because everybody should be running the same approach. And I just think that those resources it's kind of like as Google grows, we've realized that everyone's learning, right? What we need are the strategies and resources in place, whether it's like human resources or program resources,
and especially like
achieve.
I think corp almost by design, because there's so many accounts. It's impossible for any rep to reach them. Like, so the partners play even like in enterprise, you can argue like we'll get the coverage,
Sure.
You'll have like 1 to 3, 1 to 5, like a real, enterprise strategy. In corp, it's never going to be that.
And I think all of our sales leaders are 100% committed to having 100% through the channel. I mean, there's just no way that we would meet those goals without it. So it coming from the top down has been huge internally. Just in the last 2.5 years, it's been night and day from when we first started with partners to now. Just the velocity, how many deals are going through partners, both resold and with services. The alignment that we're having at our events and things like that. So it's been really exciting. And then even just in the industry, when I hear about, I connect with colleagues that I worked with in the past. They're hearing about Google more and more. I read something Kirsten said. She remembers at Microsoft is just hearing more and more about Google. And before maybe every now and then, but now I think that we're definitely seen as a major player.
We have a huge role to play in that. And now I think it's just going to be easier for us as an ecosystem to align and be treated as an extension of the sales organization. With, by the way, the same gives and gets. Like if we're expected to be an extension of the sales organization, because now we all roll up to Janet Kennedy and then to Kirsten Cliphouse in the US, then we almost have to be held accountable to a number. Like I think
so
Janet. Well, no, we have lots of numbers. But imagine if you're Janet Kennedy and you're like, 30% of my US number will come through my partners. I mean, I'm just throwing out random numbers here. But imagine like if we could be dependent on to that degree, almost like with the quota. It's almost my dream.
It would be fantastic. Yeah. The truth is that I feel like also the partners have done an incredible job of up-leveling their skill set around a cloud that I think initially a lot of partners didn't necessarily. I don't know that the programs were even in place for a long time for certifications to be achieved, for the structure to be there for partners to invest in that. SADA specifically really came in hard. When I started, I can't remember if SADA was doing GCP or if it was just G Suite. A lot of the partners were sort of new into the
we're one
space.
Of the few that comes from the 10 or 12 years of working with Google. So there was no GCP back then.
Right.
So we cut our teeth on we have a very big Maps business and
Correct,
G Suite
right.
is still very big for us. But yeah, GCP, like we had to prove ourselves.
And the investment in that has been incredible, honestly. To see people our partners become so fluent in our technology so quickly. And you can sell without a partner, but I don't believe you can actually follow through without one. It's all fun and games to get like we're ready, we're gonna move forward with it. And then 2 months later, like, so were you guys ready to start and spin some stuff up? And so it's incredibly necessary to have that. I think in short order, some very incredible skill sets have been identified.
Very impressed with the partner talent.
We had to. Like, it was an existential moment for us. Like, are we going to continue to be relevant, in the fastest growing part of Google Cloud and in the ecosystem? We had to do it. It's hard to pivot. We're fortunate enough to kind of go all in and make these investments. And I think I'm seeing other partners kind of more going all in. There's a big announcement about was it HCL or one of these big GSIs, like in the Asia region, like, we're going to put 5,000 people in this Google Cloud practice and stuff like that. So I don't think there's any doubt that the investment sort of ROI is there now. I think we saw it early, which is great, but we almost had when you're really good at, you're known for one thing, like G Suite or Maps, there's almost like a negative bias, like, you're like, you can't figure out cloud. So I had this like insecurity around needing to do that, because a lot of the other partners coming in, the new partners, which are necessary, like we need healthy partners in the ecosystem, and I admire our competitors, and I want everybody to be successful because the market's actually way bigger than all of us can address right now. but they're coming from like maybe the AWS ecosystem or the Rackspace ecosystem or Microsoft ecosystem, where they're more on the data sort of infrastructure side and the data center side. They're not coming in from the other parts of Google Cloud. So we have different origin stories.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see the different, and that's what's cool about our job is we were exposed to so many different partners that have so many different, strengths and capabilities and stories to tell. Yeah. So, that's what's exciting is that we get to, interact with so many different talented partners from small guys all the way up to, the GSIs of the world.
Yeah. No, Rob actually addressed the Partner Advisory Council last week in New York over GVC, and he was literally saying that the partner organization globally has like almost tripled since he got here.
I bet.
And is set to double again this year. That's a crazy level of investment.
It really is.
And
the teams are all growing. They're going to need more support. I don't know by what multiple they'll grow, but with the added number of territories that we're interested in and opportunity out there, I think that it just goes hand in hand. And that also goes to the same level of like us being under sales now and having it all be very unified.
Yeah. No, and I think the pressure's on us to match that level of investment. I mean, obviously, we don't have $12 billion a year to put in R&D and build data centers, but
getting there.
But the headcount's really important, and the coverage is important. The local market approach is really important. And we're not going to match that investment one-on-one with Google, but we do have to, I think, create an environment and slightly different corp, slightly different enterprise. But as you said, regardless of who sells it, our job is to make sure that delivery is successful, that consumption is happening, that the reps and even the PSO organization, when it's after it's done doing its thing, like they don't have to worry about it.
Right.
And then we can make sure that they hit their ramp plans, that they're successful, that they're identifying new workloads, it's actually delivering the transformation that we all promised, right?
And help with stickiness. I mean, that's a huge aspect of it also, because I mean, it could fluctuate, right? Things could change, and if someone's not on it and aware of everything that's going on,
you get customers, you have to keep them too.
Right. Yeah.
Man, this market does not reward complacency.
Right.
Every month, you got to make sure.
Yeah.
Right. It's a good thing to curse with the cloud. So, we're wanting from our competitors and they want them back. So you always have to stay on your toes and just keep making sure that the customer's happy.
We're defining new ways of doing that. We had a really good system, and our renewal rate, like G Suite, for instance, is really high. Our consumption ramp in Maps and our renewals in Maps are really high, and just creating new mechanisms like TAMs and other things to make sure that the cloud customers are happy. That's actually harder than a renewal every year.
And that's where I think we've seen sales kind of have that aha moment with partners is, once they get on board, they're, working hard to get deals. And once they have those deals, seeing the investment partners make into those existing businesses to grow them, make sure they're ran, make sure they're happy. So that frees up time for our reps to then find new business. New logos are a huge focus for us. So sort of, I don't want to say offloading, but sharing some of that responsibility of, we have a customer, we want to make sure they stay. So the stickiness, growing them, keeping them happy, things like TAMs like that have been crucial to our business and will only continue to be.
Well, and there are limits, right? Like there's limits to what a salesperson can do really for a customer, right? There's limits. Obviously privacy is a huge concern of Google's, and so there's limits to what we even know about what customers do. And I think that's part and parcel with any of the clouds, right? But partners have a specific relationship with a customer that allows them deeper insight into some of the goings on in an environment that would allow them to provide added benefit, whether it's understanding utilization metrics, whether it's identifying potential speed bumps as they're growing their footprint or expanding or leveraging new technologies. I think there's an added level of insight that partners can give that public cloud providers just don't have. And that's huge for customers because those are the areas that are really going to show them huge value and also steer them away from having problems that might otherwise be attributed to just the provider themselves. It could be that these things, there's always going to be problems when you're rolling out some sort of technical infrastructure.
Yeah, no, our job is to make Google Cloud look great.
Love
That's
that.
We gotta, and when things go wrong, as they inevitably do in complex projects or even in like there's outages, it's everything's it's not magic, right?
Right.
Happen. Like our job is to make sure the customer continues and not lose sort of operational. They don't experience operational downtime.
Right.
We got to make sure that we're there hand in hand with Google.
Right, because we see them as your customers. Like once we have a partner
Yeah.
involved, it's like that's our partner's customer.
I'd say really the technology, the culture, and the people. I mean, you've been to our office. It's really unlike anywhere else. So we want to bring an extension of that to the customer experience.
Yeah. How about you, Brad?
Yeah, I mean, I remember when I decided that I would start looking at Google Cloud as a major opportunity. I was on the phone with a customer who was running on AWS, and they said, we're happy to talk about that, but we're not moving any of this from Google. It's staying there. It's perfect. That's the best place. We love it. And I was like, I'll start looking into this. And actually, I started looking down the website portfolio that night, and I was really impressed at what I saw. And it kind of gave me a lot to think about in terms of like where the underlying technology for even some of our competitors comes from, right? Like Kubernetes, containerization, a lot of white papers that have led to some really great transformations in the marketplace. And I wanted to be at a place that was at the forefront of creating these kinds of technologies because it's exciting and it really does help people and it helps companies operate better. Yeah. And I do agree. I think that there's something in the ethos of Google. I think we have a special position to offer customers is that cultural and personal approach. Now, like I said, it'll never be as personal as a partner can get, but I do think that we have the opportunity to be a different kind of sale that can really get close to a customer, understand their problems, and bring a very in-depth and well thought out approach from a number of people who are invested. I think there's an aspect of Google investing in its customers that I really appreciate.
The world is a multi-cloud world. It will continue to be a multi-cloud world because, especially in the enterprise, there's no board is going to let it. Its company relies solely on one cloud. But what we love about what Google brings to the table, and it's along the lines of what you said, like they've invented a lot of this stuff for their own purposes.
Right.
Nobody else has had to, like Google has had to, and now they're making it available to the enterprise.
Building their own hardware and not outsourcing any of it.
Yeah, inventing Kubernetes as an orchestration engine, TensorFlow, and sort of opening, open sourcing some of this stuff. And maybe even quantum supremacy. I don't know. You hear about that?
I've heard about it. Yeah. I don't know what it means.
I don't know.
Sounds like a James Bond.
IBM is like saying no, you didn't. It's like this
I see that article,
interesting fight, But what I love about this ecosystem is, and what gets me up every day and excited and wanting to, continue to see how big we can make this thing is the impact on customers. Whether it's G Suite or Maps or Cloud. People don't choose the Google path unless they're trying to do something transformational. Nobody's like, I'm going to just lift and shift and move to Google because I want to work exactly how I used to work before.
Right.
I want my applications
Google now.
just to work the way, make it like the data center, but like, I don't want to touch it. Nobody says that.
Right.
They're all like, no, I want to completely transform like how many releases I can do on this critical app that my customers use. Or I want to completely change the way my people collaborate because an open collaborative environment is what's going to give us a competitive advantage. That's the conversation.
It's really transforming businesses and the way people work and operate. And it's scary, but a lot of customers, once, like you said, consumable bite-sized amounts of risk, and taking them through that journey is pretty cool.
Yeah, that was another aspect of that night when I was looking through the portfolio. I realized that a lot of what I sold when I was selling AWS was taking a lot of very small pieces and having to super glue them together very carefully to make sure that everything worked, because if one thing was out of place, problems could occur. And I did like the fact that I felt like Google had a more holistic approach to its architectures and to its tool sets, where they were sort of built to interact. They were purpose-built to interact with one another and to connect properly. That's why I always actually did. I knew it was a little bit confusing. We had those hexagons that we used to put together, sort of almost like a tile plate. Yeah. But that is actually how I see our offerings work. They seem to just be purpose-built to connect to one another and work, as opposed to having to really think hard about what you're going to do ahead of doing it. Because if you don't do it the right way, then it might not work properly.
And every week I seem to see a release that makes that even more true.
Mhm.
Like TensorFlow for enterprise, like or AutoML, like just making these things like as easy as possible, as accessible as possible, and the innovation curve is just super crazy.
It is, and I think that there's always at the forefront. I don't know this for a fact; it's just how I feel of the developers' minds who are making these products that they need to work together nicely. There needs to be options where these things just sort of connect and work. That's right. No, I love to see that, and even in their acquisitions, the velocity which they're making those kind of native platform. So going back to your core business, you guys are in a partner business, PSMs, partner sales managers. Top 3 points of advice. If you were to give 3 pieces of advice to partners, what would that be? Lisa, go first.
All right, there's a lot, but I'd say top 3. 1 would be execute. So executing on whether it's just a simple responding to an email or following through with an SOW, being able to execute was huge. 2, I'd say paying close attention to what's going on in the market that you're looking to invest in and kind of mirroring that. So that makes it a lot easier for Googlers to work with a partner if they're aligned. So then another would be, I would say, alignment on, understand how the reps, what they care about and care about those same things. So if we care about, AutoML, you should care about that too. And, expand upon it, of course, but know what's important to the Googlers that you're working with and, just be reliable.
Execute, know the market, align.
There we go.
Very good. She took some of the good ones, but
she really did. I totally.
You gotta come up with 3 new ones.
Oh, new ones? Okay. In addition to those, I think definitely investing in the acumen, which you guys have done a fantastic job of. But having people that you can rely on who can come in and be trusted advisors, like really, not just for the customer, for the Googler as well. So both sides should be able to lean on everything the partner's saying as wildly valuable. Even the insight, even if they don't wind up going that direction, that insight was incredibly valuable and came from someone who obviously knew what they were talking about. That I love. Whenever I get people coming in who can speak the language and kind of geek out, it's my favorite thing to hear. And you can see in the customers how valuable they find that. In addition to that, so you said activate, but I like the self-starter methodology, right? Like I really like it when partners are able to, let's assume that we were having a conversation with a customer and there were action items that were drawn up at the end of the conversation. When a partner takes it upon themselves to put together a plan based off said action items and deliver them, I think that goes a really long way. Sometimes it's like...
So accountability?
Yeah, it's like accountability. Like, yeah, all of those. Like I feel like at the end of one of those conversations, it can be whose responsibility is it to do next? Well, assume responsibility. Just
assume it's yours.
Yeah, exactly.
Make my life easier.
Exactly.
Add value.
I think that just goes a long way to.
If I'm a Google rep, I'm like, this partner took the notes, assigned them, following up, and moving the ball forward.
Love that.
100%.
Who doesn't love it?
Yeah, like taking accountability and action in those scenarios is invaluable. I think it just shows a level of dedication that I think sets partners aside. Actually, when there's a partner who does that, in my mind, they become a much higher level. And then lastly, investing in solutions, right? Like you said, knowing the market, so it kind of goes in line with that. But I think that as we move into more verticalized approaches, having, and it doesn't have to be all. I don't expect any partner to be like, well, we've got a solution for every vertical out there. It's sort of unbelievable, but to be able to have solutions that are built out and pointed directly to those things. So let's say it was, retail, for example, to have a subset of solutions where a partner can say, when we introduce this solution, the end result is, higher resale value, a bigger number of store revisits, whatever it is.
Yeah. Having a differentiator and a brand.
Correct.
I think I always ask partners when I meet new partners, I'm like, what's your brand? Like, what makes you different?
Yeah.
What's like the number one thing you would want a rep to know about you?
Yeah, specialization is really important.
Totally, and I think that it helps in two ways, right? Not only does it help show immediate value to a customer, where they're saying, "Oh wow, I hadn't even thought of these things." I mean, in a larger sense, I knew that this was what I wanted to achieve, but how to go about it, we didn't know where to start. But you have an actual whole solution, and obviously, there's going to be some kind of iteration that goes on to those things. I don't think the one size fit all thing will always work.
Yeah.
But it also goes a long way in helping the Googlers understand how they're going to break into set accounts. So sometimes it's valuable when you're discussing with a customer, but it's also valuable in getting a customer's attention.
That's right. Yeah, above and beyond, like, I'll just talk to you because you're Google.
Correct.
Yeah.
Like, hey, someone has thought of this for us, and let's speak to this because this is a solution that aligns with your business needs.
I think last year, the year before, I was in Austin like Wednesday, Thursday, and left Friday before Formula One weekend. I was like, I was coming
You were
in.
missing it
This sounds really exciting. So now to actually be able to do it, like, this is one of the biggest sporting events in the world.
In the world.
Yeah,
It's
get to
my
enjoy
first
it.
one.
You see
so-
really cool cars around town too, actually, because people fly them in from all over the world.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
They load them off a truck and the people just drive around town in them. These cars you'd never usually see.
Never. Yeah. No.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I'm really curious to see like what this. Like, we've all been to like football games, basketball games.
Yeah.
I've never been to this.
Never.
It's different.
It's going to be a totally new experience.
Much more international, that's for sure.
And our customers are going to have a great time, and we're going to see some of the racing. So,
Yeah.
Fantastic.
well, I want to thank you for joining me here in Austin.
Thank you.
And it's a
Fun
pleasure
weekend
talking
to
to
be
you.
here.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Thanks, Toby.
And I'll let you know when this goes on.
Great.
All right.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thanks.
Thank you.
That was fun.
Yeah, that was good.
Good job.
Thank you for listening to Cloud and Clear. Check the show notes for links to this week's topics. And don't forget to connect with us on Twitter @Cloud&Clear and our website, sada.com. Be sure to rate and review the show on your favorite podcast app.